My name is Aimee St. Pierre. I'm editor-at-large with New York Nonprofit Media, and I'm proud to present our first At the Board Table segment, where we'll talk with board leaders about how their boards work and hopefully unearth some learnings that'll be helpful for nonprofits. I'm here today with Suzy Marquard. She is the chair of the board at GallopNYC, and since 2009, I believe that is, you've been the chair there?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
And working alongside the executive director, Alicia Kershaw.
That's right.
Who founded Gallup New York in 2005, as I understand.
Right.
And wonderfully, it's just been announced that your organization is a finalist for the Brooke Mahoney Award for Outstanding Board Leadership. So congratulations on that by
Thank
far.
you. We're very excited about that.
Great, and thank you again for joining us. So first on the agenda, I'd actually just like you, if you could, to tell us about what Gallup New York NYC does, sort of in the style that you would if you were talking with a colleague or a friend, of a little bit of your elevator pitch, if you would, just.
Sure. So what we do is we bring the proven benefits of therapeutic horsemanship, creating a bond between people with special needs and horses. We help them walk, talk, behave, learn, connect better so that they can live life more fully, independently. And we have about an average of 325 riders a week in 5 New York City locations. Right.
Thank you. Can you just tell us how you got involved with the organization, and as the chair of the board, how your involvement is taken shape over time?
All right. I first became involved with the organization. I learned of it through a friend who was a friend of Alicia's, and I began volunteering when we first started giving our first lessons. We started out in March of 2007 with 3 riders. So we've grown quite a bit since then. So I volunteered by helping to lead the horse or walk alongside the horse, help the rider stay on, whatever. And as we thought about expanding, getting more riders, we realized we needed more instructors, and I thought I could do this. I had recently retired, and I'm an avid horse person myself, so I knew about riding and had been learning about working with people with special needs, and which is just thrilling, really rewarding. So I did that in 2008. I became certified by what's now called the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship, or PATH, but it's not the PATH we know about in New York City. Anyway, so I became an instructor, and I joined the board in 2008 also, later on that year. And we still, at that point, were kind of a founders board, and so we kind of went from just kind of gathering over lunch and running the organization that way, until Alicia said we've got to act a little more grown up, and thought that we should have someone other than the executive director be a chair of the board. So she asked me to do it because I had some experience with that sort of thing in the past. I was a corporate finance attorney in my prior life. So I took on the job, which at first was presiding over board meetings, but the role has grown quite a bit toward in trying to encourage board members to get engaged and get them involved in strategy and fundraising, and the role of the board has really expanded since that time, from a founders board to like a real grown-up board.
Actually, that leads me to my next question, which is how would you describe the role of the board in your organization? What are its priorities? And
all right. Well, first, sort of in order of what makes sense, is setting the mission and the vision, the mission, and also then establishing our values and operating principles by which management can make appropriate decisions. So we set policy, but more importantly, the board is responsible, in our view, for assuring that we have the resources to do what we aim to do, both financial, intellectual, physical. And so really, in a word, it's stewardship.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Well, you know, that brings me to the fact your organization's budget is a little under $800,000, is that right?
Right, right.
And from your annual report, I see you have a nice mix of foundations, donor-advised funds, and also in-kind support. Can you tell me just a little bit about what the board's role has been in establishing relationships with those funders and sustaining them?
We have a staff now. We have a development director, so we have people on the staff who work hard at researching foundations and so forth. Mm-hmm. We also rely very heavily on our board members to network and help us make connections to do fundraising. Mm-hmm. We all have a give and get expectation, of course. So we're trying to turn over every stone.
So now, does it involve specifics like making thank you calls to donors or submitting names for appeals?
We really expect all of our directors to participate in our big fundraising events. We've participated in one big one each year for the last few years, where we expect everyone to buy a ticket. Mm-hmm. And then reach out to all of their friends and acquaintances. Mm-hmm. to ask them to come to the event.
I noticed that many of your board members are either equestrians or horse lovers or are parents of individuals who use your services. How do you find your new board members? How do you find these individuals?
Well, there are a number of ways. Through networking first, through our current board members and volunteers, people we hear about. Mm-hmm. So that's why often they do come from the horse world or the people who have an interest in special needs education and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But we also participate in like United Way board fairs. Mm-hmm. And also we've been working with an organization called Youth Inc. Mm-hmm. Inc. stands for Improving Nonprofits for Children. Okay. But it's kind of a mentoring consultant type of agency, and they have helped us work on improving our board effectiveness as well as fundraising, and they have helped us also find board members. And then when we make connections with people who have a connection with a large organization, mm-hmm. corporation, who provide community service mm-hmm. Programs, we can solicit people through that. The other thing we have done recently is establish a rising professionals group. Mm-hmm. So these are younger people mm-hmm. who we hope to engage, and we've actually asked them to join committees if they would like, committees of the board, and kind of shadow them and learn about what the board does. Mm-hmm. And though it's not necessarily expected that they'll become board members, that is a place where we may solicit board members in the future.
Wonderful. If I just might ask, without getting too much into the weeds, what are some of the things that your board monitors in order just to make sure that the organization is staying on task?
Oh, well, we provide at all of the board meetings what we call a dashboard, which shows the rider demographics, the range of special needs or disabilities that they have, the locations where they come from, that sort of thing. So that just shows that we're being consistent with our mission. The board comprises a number of committees. There's a finance committee that gets into the weeds on finances, but then we report that to the full board when it meets. Mm-hmm. So they look at a P&L and a balance sheet,
keep everyone up to speed.
It keeps everyone up to speed. And each committee, as I mentioned, we have a number of committees, which is what makes our board more effective, because they do the work in between the board meetings. Mm-hmm. It can be a little more flexible and agile when you have a smaller group of people working on specific things. So we have a fundraising committee, we have the finance committee, as I mentioned, we have a site committee, I'll talk more about that in a minute, I think, and a board development committee, did I say that? Mm-hmm. And an audit committee. And we've recently kind of come to the end of a strategic planning process to look out for the next 10 years.
I just wanted to also in closing, actually, I wanted to ask you what you think is the one thing about your board that stood out for the Brooke Mahoney Award.
I think it's that we are keeping up with best practices and following those best practices. And as I was mentioning, we have the committees really doing the work and focusing on things that they need to focus on. Mm-hmm. The board members are all engaged. We do our best to create a buy-in to what we're doing. All of them are passionate about our mission, which is not hard to do, but they are.
Wonderful.
They are. Right.
Thank you very much for sitting with us today. And again, congratulations.
Oh,
and we look forward to hearing more. And hope you are successful with the award.
Great.
And with everything moving forward.
Thanks. I enjoyed talking with you.